The sky was not just dark that day. It was alive with shadows long and terrifying, moving like predators above the cities of Earth. Millions of people looked up, their hearts sinking as massive alien ships slowly descended from orbit. The Elari, a race of conquerors known across distant star systems, had come. They did not come quietly. Their ships blotted out the sun, their engines thrummed with power that made the very air hum, and their loudspeakers boomed across continents. "Submit your world," the alien voice demanded, deep and cold. "Resistance is useless. Beg and perhaps we may grant you mercy. Fail and your civilization will end." In every corner of Earth, panic erupted. People screamed in streets and homes and shelters hastily dug underground. Governments scrambled to issue emergency broadcasts. Militaries around the world mobilized. But even the most confident generals whispered fearfully, how could humanity survive against such impossible power? But somewhere in the hearts of humans, a spark refused to die. In small towns and crowded cities, people looked around them, not with fear but with determination. Mothers clutched their children. Teachers guided students to safety. Workers, exhausted and confused, formed lines to help wherever they could. The world was afraid, yes, but it was not defeated. In the command centers of Earth, leaders gathered for emergency meetings. Nations argued, nations debated, but in the end a single decision emerged, one that would define the planet forever. Earth would not beg. Earth would not submit. Instead, Earth would declare a law that no alien, no matter how powerful, could ignore. The law of vengeance. It was simple. It was fierce. It was a promise. Any attack on Earth, any act of aggression, would meet an immediate, equal, and unstoppable response. When the decision was announced publicly, the world was stunned. The Elari had expected fear, trembling, begging. What they received was something else entirely. Humanity did not crumble. Humanity did not cry for mercy. Humanity stood and said, "Fight us and you will pay." The streets were quiet now, but not from surrender. People whispered to each other in hushed tones, and in their words there was courage. "We will survive this," they said. "We have to. We cannot fail." In homes and bunkers, in cities and villages, people prepared. They fortified shelters, gathered supplies, and most importantly, they believed. They believed in themselves, in each other, and in the strange, stubborn power of the human heart. High above the planet, the alien fleet seemed unstoppable. Their warships were massive, perfectly designed for destruction. Their weapons could level cities in moments, and yet Earth did not tremble. Instead, scientists, engineers, and soldiers began to work in ways that even the Elari could not have predicted. Old satellites were repurposed into orbital weapons. Ancient defense protocols were upgraded and combined with new technologies. Fleets were rebuilt, not just for survival, but for retaliation. On one of the command ships, Captain Leona Reyes stood silently, staring at the approaching enemy fleet. She had trained for years, fought battles in simulations, and led hundreds of crews. But nothing in her life had prepared her for this moment. Her hands gripped the edge of the command console, knuckles white, and yet her eyes burned with a fierce determination. "They think we will beg," she whispered to herself. "They think we will fall. They are wrong. We are not just survivors. We are humanity." In cities below, people looked up one last time at the alien shadows. Some prayed. Some screamed. Some simply held each other, knowing that the hours ahead would test every ounce of courage they had. And somewhere in the quiet spaces of the world, a single thought united every human being. We will not bow. We will not surrender. The first flashes of alien energy weapons lit the clouds, distant and terrifying. And yet for the first time in human history, the planet felt a strange sense of power, not fear. Earth had made its choice. Humanity had drawn its line. The law of vengeance was no empty threat, it was a promise. And for the first time, the invaders would realize that humanity was unlike any species they had ever faced. Above the chaos, Captain Reyes gave the order. "Prepare the fleet. Humanity does not beg. Humanity does not surrender. Humanity fights. And as the first human ships moved into position, the sky, once a symbol of fear, became a stage for defiance. Deep beneath the surface of Earth, in secret command bunkers and hidden shipyards, the hum of human industry never stopped. While the world above watched the skies with fear, a different energy flowed below. A quiet, relentless force of determination. Scientists, engineers, and soldiers worked together, day and night, to prepare a defense unlike anything the universe had ever seen. Every ship was inspected, every weapon tested, and every system upgraded. Old vessels that once patrolled the seas of Earth were now transformed into interstellar warriors. Satellites that had quietly orbited the planet for communication now glimmered with a dangerous purpose, loaded with orbital cannons and precision lasers. Humanity's fleet was small compared to the Aelari Armada, but size was not the measure here. It was heart, skill, and willpower. Captain Liana Reyes walked through the corridors of the flagship, the Resolute, and she could feel the weight of the moment pressing down. Hundreds of crew members hurried past her, checking systems, coordinating maneuvers, and steeling themselves for the battle to come. Each one of them carried the hopes of billions of people, and Liana knew the burden was heavy, but it was also empowering. She stopped at the observation deck, gazing out at the stars where the alien fleet was beginning to form lines of attack. Their ships were enormous, sleek, and perfect in design, built for war and conquest. But Liana's gaze was unwavering. "They think fear will break us," she whispered. "They think submission is our only choice. They are wrong. Every human here fights not just for survival, but for honor, for home, for each other." Across Earth, people contributed in ways small and large. Children, unaware of the full danger, painted messages of hope on walls. Volunteers transported food, medicine, and supplies to shelters. Engineers turned factories into production lines for weapons and armor. Even civilians who had never held a weapon learned the language of courage. The planet itself became a living fortress, each citizen a soldier in spirit. Meanwhile, the Aelari grew impatient. They had expected surrender, groveling, and pleas. Instead, they saw a world bristling with resistance. Reports came back to their admiral, confusion in every transmission. Their calculations had failed to predict this. Humanity was not begging. Humanity was preparing. Humanity was ready. Back on the Resolute, Liana addressed her crew. "This is our moment," she said, voice steady but full of fire. "We do not fight because we are forced to. We fight because we must. Every ship in this fleet carries the dreams of our families, the voices of our children, the memories of our lost. The enemy believes we are weak. They will learn that we are stronger than they can imagine. Prepare yourselves, not for fear, but for victory." Her words rippled through the corridors, lifting the spirits of every soldier and engineer aboard. Humanity's strength was not just in their weapons, it was in their resolve. Every technician tightening a bolt, every pilot checking their instruments, every sailor standing ready at the edge of the ship knew the truth. The Aelari had underestimated them. They had underestimated the heart of humanity. As the alien fleet drew closer, the first human ships began to lift off from hidden launch bays across Earth. Rockets blazed through the atmosphere, leaving trails of fire and smoke, carrying the courage of billions into the cold void of space. Liana watched as each vessel joined the formation, a small but defiant wall against the approaching storm. For the first time in centuries, humanity moved as one. Every ship, every weapon, every citizen contributed to a single purpose: to survive, to fight, and to make the universe understand that Earth would never kneel. Fear had not been eliminated, but it had been transformed into something far more powerful: determination, courage, and a readiness to protect what was theirs at any cost. Even in the silence before the first attack, the energy aboard the fleet was electric. Liana felt it in her bones. Humanity was ready to write its own history in the stars. They had prepared for war, but they carried something the Aelari could never calculate: spirit, hope, and the unyielding law of vengeance that had been declared not in arrogance, but in justice. And as the first human vessels aligned in formation, the words echoed in every mind aboard every ship. We do not beg. We do not yield, we fight. And if you strike us, we will make you pay. The cosmos had never witnessed a species like this before. The invaders were about to learn that humanity was not just a planet to conquer. It was a force united and unbreakable. The silence of space was broken by the roar of engines. The human fleet, small but determined, moved into formation, glinting under the light of distant stars. On the horizon, the LRE fleet loomed larger, faster, and seemingly unstoppable. Their ships were dark, sleek, and alien, each bristling with weapons that could obliterate entire cities in moments. The invaders had expected hesitation, but instead they were met with a wall of human courage and steel. Captain Liana Reyes stood at the bridge of the Resolute, eyes locked on the approaching enemy. Her crew was tense, but she felt the same fire she had seen in every human she had ever met. "Remember," she said quietly, her voice carrying through the comms, "they may have numbers, they may have firepower, but we have something they will never understand. We fight for each other, for home, and for every life they think is weak. This is our planet, and we do not beg." The Alari Admiral's voice thundered across space. "Surrender, humans. Resistance is futile. Your weapons are primitive. Your ships are fragile. Kneel and beg for mercy or face annihilation." But the humans did not kneel. Instead, the first salvo of energy beams from Earth's orbital cannons lit the void, striking the nearest alien ships with precision that stunned the invaders. Explosions blossomed like deadly flowers in space, sending shards of alien hulls spinning into the darkness. The Alari paused, confusion rippling through their ranks. They had never expected such coordination. They had never expected humans to strike first with confidence rather than fear. On the ground, people watched the sky through monitors and telescopes. Hearts pounded as they saw their defenders rise against an impossible enemy. Children clutched their parents' hands and parents whispered prayers, but above all, hope surged. Humanity was fighting back, and it was beautiful, terrible, and inspiring all at once. Inside the flagship, Liana's communications officer called out reports in rapid succession. "Captain, enemy ship destroyed." Another hit, shields failing on their left flank. "They are regrouping." Liana nodded, barely moving, yet every fiber of her being thrummed with focus. "Keep the pressure. Remember our law of vengeance. Every strike they make against us will be met with equal force. We fight not because we can, but because we must." The battle raged with sudden intensity. The alien fleet had superior technology, but human ingenuity turned the tide. Pilots executed daring maneuvers, dodging impossible fire and striking where the enemy least expected. Every ship became a weapon of not only steel and energy, but of human spirit. Even small freighters retrofitted with advanced weapons played a crucial role, weaving through enemy lines and targeting critical points. Amidst the chaos, a moment of quiet courage appeared. A young pilot, barely out of training, maneuvered her fighter past a massive Alari warship. She saw the alien crews panic as she fired her weapon, crippling their engines. She whispered to herself, "This is for Earth, this is for everyone we love." And then, she turned her ship to strike another enemy vessel, never hesitating, never faltering. The Alari, once so confident, began to falter. Their formations broke. Their attacks grew uncoordinated. They had expected fear, they had expected submission, but humanity's courage was a weapon no technology could defeat. Back on the Resolute, Liana felt a wave of pride wash over her. She saw the flashes of human victory across the battlefield and thought of every city, every child, every person fighting and surviving on Earth. Humanity was not just surviving, it was fighting back, not with despair but with defiance, determination, and skill that the Alari could not comprehend. And then, a message came through from one of the smaller vessels. "Captain, They are regrouping for a concentrated strike at the heart of our formation. Liana's jaw tightened. She knew the battle had only just begun. But she also knew this. The humans in front of her, behind her, and across Earth would never beg, would never yield, and would never stop fighting. The law of vengeance was not a threat. It was reality. The first contact had ended not with submission but with shock. The invaders had learned their first lesson. Humanity did not beg. Humanity did not surrender. Humanity fought with every ounce of courage, ingenuity, and heart it had. And the universe would soon learn that the human spirit was more dangerous than any weapon. And as the debris of destroyed alien ships floated silently against the stars, Liana knew one truth above all else: the war had begun. But humanity had already won the most important battle: respect. While the battle raged in the cold expanse of space, the real war was also being fought on Earth. Cities shook under the distant blasts of alien energy, buildings crumbling and streets catching fire. Smoke and dust choked the air, but the people did not falter. Humans ran through debris, helping each other, carrying the injured and shielding children from falling rubble. In the chaos, courage shone brighter than any weapon. In a small city near the coast, a group of volunteers guided families to safety. Among them was Maria, a nurse who refused to leave even when the ground trembled beneath her feet. "We can't just hide," she shouted to a frightened child holding her hand. "We have to fight in every way we can. We protect each other no matter what." Her words, simple yet powerful, lifted the spirits of those around her. Even in fear, people found hope. On the rooftops, engineers and technicians fired makeshift anti-aircraft weapons, hitting alien drones that tried to scout the streets. They were not soldiers, but determination made them warriors. Their hands shook, their eyes blurred from smoke and tears, but they did not stop. Each shot was a message. Humanity would not kneel. Humanity would resist. Captain Liana Reyes received reports from her fleet in orbit. "They are holding the cities better than expected," said Lieutenant Harris. "People are helping each other everywhere. They are not hiding. They are fighting in every way they can." Liana's heart swelled with pride. "That's humanity," she said quietly. "Not just our ships or our weapons, but everyone, everywhere. That is what makes us strong. That is why they will never defeat us." In another part of the city, a young boy named Arun carried water to a group of injured people trapped under a collapsed building. Every step was heavy, but he thought of his family, his friends, and the promise that the Earth would fight back. "We can't give up," he whispered. "Not now. Not ever." Around him, neighbors joined in, forming a human chain to save those who could not move on their own. Each act of bravery, no matter how small, became a spark of defiance against the alien threat. Meanwhile, in the skies above, human fighter ships swooped low, targeting enemy drones and providing cover for evacuation teams. Pilots risked their lives repeatedly, performing maneuvers that seemed impossible, diving through alien fire to strike at the heart of the invaders' scouting forces. Each victory, small or large, sent a wave of hope back down to the people below. Back on the Resolute, Liana spoke to her crew. "This is not just a battle of weapons," she said. "This is a battle of spirit. Every human down there, every person who refuses to run, gives us strength. We fight not just for victory in space, but for every heart on Earth, remember that." And the people heard the message even if they did not hear her words directly. Every act of bravery, every decision to help another, every moment of defiance became part of a larger story. It was a story that would be remembered long after the war was over. The story of a species that refused to bow, no matter the cost. The Alari, from their massive ships in orbit, began to notice this spirit. Reports came back to their commanders. The humans are not weak. The humans do not flee. They fight in ways we cannot predict. Confusion and fear spread among the invaders. For the first time, they realized that defeating humanity would not be as simple as crushing a planet beneath their weapons. There was something in these creatures that no calculation could measure. Heart. As night fell over the war-torn city, the fires painted the streets in orange and red, and the people paused only briefly to catch their breath. The city was scarred, but the people were unbroken. Liana looked down from orbit at the glowing patches of resistance, her heart filled with emotion. Humanity's spirit was visible even from the stars. In every action, big or small, humans reminded the universe of one undeniable truth. They would never beg, never surrender, and never forget. They were more than flesh and bone. They were courage, determination, and love made visible in every choice to fight, help, and survive. The battle on Earth was far from over, but one thing was clear. The Aelari had underestimated humanity in every way. They had misjudged a species that would protect its own, not for glory or conquest, but because it was the right thing to do. Humanity's heart had become the strongest weapon of all, and it would guide them through the storms yet to come. And as the fires glimmered below and human voices rose in unbroken defiance, Liana knew this. The law of vengeance was more than words. It was alive in every human beating heart, and the universe would soon understand that lesson. The battle had raged for hours, both in space and on Earth. Human cities bore the scars of alien attacks, yet the people remained unbroken. Fires burned, alarms rang, and explosions echoed through the night. But humanity's spirit burned even brighter. From orbit, Captain Liana Reyes watched the chaos unfold below and felt a surge of pride mixed with sorrow. Each fire meant lives disrupted, but each act of defiance reminded her why they fought. Every life was worth protecting. On the bridge of the Resolute, the fleet prepared for a decisive move. The Aelari had regrouped after the first encounters, forming a massive wedge of attack aimed at the center of the human formation. Intelligence reports indicated their flagship would strike at the orbital command points, hoping to cripple human coordination. The numbers were against them. The ships were outmatched in firepower, but the humans had something the aliens could not calculate: courage, strategy, and unity. Liana turned to her crew, her voice calm yet fierce. This is the moment we prove the law of vengeance is not just words. Every strike they make, we will answer with force equal or greater. We are humanity. We fight not only for survival, but for justice. Every human alive, every city, every family depends on us. Let's show them what it means to underestimate Earth. The plan was risky. Human ships would converge in a coordinated strike, focusing all firepower on the enemy's command ship. It required precision, timing, and absolute trust between every pilot. Failure would mean disaster. Success would cripple the invaders' leadership and shift the tide of battle. As the fleet moved into position, every pilot and crew member felt the weight of the moment. Young recruits who had only trained for simulations now maneuvered their ships with skill and bravery that astonished even seasoned veterans. Every action mattered. Every decision carried the weight of the entire planet. Below, on the streets of Earth, people watched as alien drones tried to suppress resistance. Civilians joined together, forming human chains, clearing rubble, and providing first aid. Soldiers and volunteers alike moved with one purpose: to protect their own. Humanity's defiance was not confined to orbit. It was alive on every street and every heart. "Captain," Lieutenant Harris shouted over comms, "all ships are in position. Target is locked. Waiting for your order." Liana's eyes scanned the display, her fingers resting lightly on the command console. She thought of the children hiding in shelters, the families trying to survive the chaos, the people who had trusted her fleet to protect them. A surge of emotion ran through her. "Fire," she said simply. Simultaneously, every human ship unleashed its weapons in a wave of destruction. Lasers, missiles, and energy pulses converged on the Aelari flagship. Shields flared and then broke. Explosions rocked the alien ship, sending fragments of metal and debris into the void. Smaller ships around it were caught in the chain reaction, their formations collapsing. The Aelari were stunned. They had underestimated the humans' ability to coordinate under pressure, their courage in the face of impossible odds, and the power of their unity. The flagship, once a symbol of invincibility, now drifted disabled, crippled by the precision and determination of the human fleet. On Earth, people cheered as they watched the signals of victory. Even in shelters and hospitals and amidst rubble, the sound of hope rang louder than any explosion. Humanity had struck back decisively. Humanity had shown the universe that it would not be conquered. Liana allowed herself a small smile, though her eyes were still heavy with worry for the lives lost. "This is only the beginning," she said softly. "But it is proof. We do not beg, we do not surrender, and we will make those who harm us pay." Even as the alien ships regrouped, fear had begun to seep into their ranks. The humans were unpredictable, fearless, and united in ways no Alari calculation had prepared them for. Humanity had turned the tide, not with sheer numbers or superior technology, but with courage, strategy, and an unwavering commitment to protect what they loved. In that moment, the turning point of the war became clear. Humanity was no longer reacting to the threat. They were leading the fight. They had seized control of their destiny and declared without hesitation or apology that the law of vengeance was alive, real, and unstoppable. And as Liana looked out at the stars, dotted with the remnants of the alien fleet, she whispered to herself, "They thought we would beg. But we chose to fight, and now they will never forget humanity." The battle had slowed, but the cost of humanity's defiance was clear. Cities lay in ruins, smoke rising like silent pillars to the sky. Streets were scarred, bridges destroyed, and entire neighborhoods reduced to rubble. Yet, despite the devastation, the people of Earth did not bow. They moved through the ruins, helping one another, lifting debris and carrying the injured. Humanity had paid a heavy price, but it had survived. And in survival it had found its strength. Captain Liana Reyes stood on the bridge of the Resolute, watching reports from across the globe. The alien fleet had been forced to retreat, but not without leaving destruction in its wake. Communications from city commanders painted a picture of courage and heartbreak. Civilians had fought alongside soldiers. Volunteers had risked their lives to rescue the trapped. Each report carried a reminder. Victory had a price, but the human spirit had endured. In one city, a group of survivors gathered in a burned-out school. Among them was an elderly man named Elias who had led children to safety through the ruins. He spoke softly to the frightened group. "We have lost much, but we have not lost ourselves. That is what makes us human. That is what makes us strong." His words echoed through the room, bringing tears and hope in equal measure. Across Earth, similar scenes unfolded. Families reunited amid chaos. Strangers became friends through shared struggle. And children learned that courage was not just a story in books. It was alive in every choice, in every act of defiance against fear. Humanity's law of vengeance was no longer words in a declaration. It was a living truth, carried in the hearts and actions of billions. Liana turned to her crew. Her face was tired, her eyes heavy from loss and sleepless nights, but her voice carried strength. "We have won this battle, yes, but at a cost we must honor. Every life lost, every city damaged, every sacrifice made, it reminds us why we fight. The law of vengeance is not cruelty. It is protection. It is justice. And it is our promise to those we love." Meanwhile, the alien commanders watched their retreating fleet with fear and disbelief. They had expected a swift conquest, surrender, and submission. What they encountered instead was a species that fought with relentless courage, that refused to bow, and that retaliated with precision and unbreakable resolve. For the first time, the invaders understood. Humanity was not merely surviving. It was teaching a lesson that would echo across the stars. Back on the ground, volunteers like Maria continued their work, guiding survivors and helping rebuild shelters. She paused for a moment, looking at the smoke-streaked sky. Her hands were scorched, her clothes torn, yet her eyes burned with determination. "We are tired," she whispered, "but we will not stop. Humanity will endure because we protect what matters. That is who we are." Even as the fires were extinguished and rubble cleared, the world changed forever. Children would grow up with stories of courage, pilots and engineers with medals and scars, and ordinary citizens with memories of a night when humanity refused to beg and chose to fight. That memory would become a foundation for generations, a reminder that vengeance could be righteous when it protected the innocent and upheld justice. From orbit, Liana looked at the Earth below, now slowly illuminated by sunrise. Cities still smoldered, but life returned to streets and homes. The people had survived the impossible, not by yielding, but by standing together and fighting for every inch of their world. Humanity's law of vengeance had been proven, not as a threat, but as a reality. And in the quiet moments, Liana allowed herself to feel the weight of both grief and pride. She thought of every life lost, every hero who had fallen, and every civilian who had shown courage beyond imagining. Humanity had paid dearly, but it had risen stronger. It had shown the universe that no threat could bend it, no enemy could crush its spirit, and no despair could extinguish its hope. The aliens had fled, but the message had been sent. Attack Earth, and the response would be absolute. Humanity did not beg. Humanity did not yield. Humanity protected its own, and it demanded respect, not mercy. And as the first light of day touched the scarred cities, Liana whispered, more to herself than anyone else, "We have survived. We have fought. And we will continue to defend what is ours, no matter the cost." The alien fleet had retreated beyond the edges of known space, their massive ships scarred and battered. For the first time in their history, they had encountered a species that refused to bow, a species that fought not for conquest but for survival, for home, and for each other. Humanity had survived. Humanity had won. Yet the cost was clear. Cities lay in ruin, lives had been lost, and scars, both physical and emotional, remained. Captain Liana Reyes stood on the bridge of the Resolute, looking down at a planet slowly waking from night. Fires still smoldered in some cities, but light was returning. Children peered out of shelters, their eyes wide with wonder and curiosity, unaware of the full scale of the battle above their heads. Adults cleaned rubble, shared food, and embraced those they thought they had lost. Humanity had endured, and it was alive, stronger and more united than ever. Liana's eyes softened as she thought of the lives lost, the bravery shown, and the courage displayed by every human, soldier, or civilian. "We have fought not only for ourselves," she whispered. "We have fought for every generation that will come after us, to show that humanity cannot be broken." Her words, though quiet, echoed through her heart and the hearts of her crew. Across Earth, people began to rebuild. Every brick laid, every home restored, and every hand extended in help became a symbol of defiance, a symbol of humanity's unbreakable spirit. In schools, children learned not only math and science, but stories of heroism and unity. In cities, survivors shared tales of courage, of people helping strangers, of acts that defined the very essence of being human. The law of vengeance had become more than a military doctrine. It had become a promise, a moral compass, and a testament to the value of life. From space, Liana watched the first new human ships leave their hidden bases. They were smaller, faster, and even more capable than before. Every vessel carried a message, not of war alone, but of warning. Humanity was ready, and anyone who dared to threaten Earth would face justice. The universe would remember the events of this battle, not just as a confrontation of weapons, but as a confrontation of spirit. Even as the planet healed, humans did not forget. Monuments rose where battles had taken place, honoring the bravery of soldiers, engineers, volunteers, and civilians alike. Songs and stories filled the air, tales that would inspire generations. Humanity had shown the galaxy that courage, unity, and love for one's home were more powerful than any alien technology. In a quiet moment on Earth, a child named Aaron, who had helped rescue neighbors from collapsed buildings, looked at the stars and whispered to himself, "We did it. We didn't beg. We didn't run. We fought." Around him, families smiled and embraced, feeling the warmth of survival and the pride of endurance. The law of vengeance was alive, not as revenge alone, but as protection, as proof that humanity valued life and would defend it with unwavering resolve. The Ilari and their faraway fleets would carry the memory of Earth's defiance forever. They would remember that humans did not submit, that humans did not beg, and that every attack against them had been met with precise, unstoppable resistance. The universe had learned a lesson in humility. Underestimate humanity, and you would face a species that would fight with courage, heart, and unbreakable unity. Back on the Resolute, Liana looked at the stars and allowed herself a rare smile. She thought of every person who had contributed to this victory. Not just the fleet, but the people on Earth, the volunteers, the families, the children, and the neighbors who had refused to yield in the face of fear. "They thought we would beg," she said softly. "Instead, we stood. We fought. We protected what was ours, and we will continue to do so. Always." As the sun rose over a scarred but undefeated planet, humans emerged from shelters, stepped over rubble, and extended hands to rebuild. Humanity had survived the impossible. Humanity had proven that the spirit, courage, and love of a species could defy the odds. The law of vengeance was now a living testament to that spirit, ensuring that Earth would never again be taken lightly. And so, humanity's story continued. Not as victims, not as beggars, but as warriors, protectors, and survivors. The world had seen fear, but it had witnessed something far stronger: hope, courage, and the undeniable truth that when humanity stands together, nothing in the universe can break it. The stars above Earth twinkled as if in recognition. Humanity had carved its place among them, not as prey, but as a force to be respected, feared, and admired. And long after the fires had cooled and the wounds had healed, the legend of that day would remain. They thought humanity would beg, yet humanity had declared a law, and the universe had learned it could never forget.